What's up? We are back with another episode of the CEO Pulse podcast where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We have none other than Garylan Stewart. All right, so check this out. This guy started in 2018. First month in real estate investments, he started wholesaling, killed it with $72,000, right? Generated $72,000 worth of revenue in that first month. You broke your six-digit benchmark in month 6.
Month 5. Yeah.
Month 5. Excuse me, bro. Month 5. That's insane, right? Like when you're breaking into a new industry and then trying to figure out how to do this whole new thing and then going, hitting the pavement hard like that and then just taking off. I want to dive deep into it. Now, the coolest thing is that you actually live in Colorado and you're doing your business in Oklahoma.
Yep.
All right. So virtual wholesaling is one of the biggest challenges I think that we come across, but it's one of the biggest skill sets that we can develop because a lot of times shit changes in our markets, right? Like I'm in a very highly competitive market, which is Phoenix. Mm-hmm. So we do virtual wholesaling. We tap into different areas where it's easier. It's just cost per lead, cost per deal is way better, right? So it's just good business. So I want to tap into that and really just kind of unravel your entire operation, man. Thank you so much for taking the time being here. I know you're in town for a couple of days.
Yep.
You chose to spend a few hours with us here, and that's greatly appreciated.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Yeah. But yeah, I'm in a competitive market too in Colorado, which is why we do virtual as well. But yeah, we chose Oklahoma as our main market, mostly because that's where I'm from. Yeah. So that's what we know. So not to get too deep and long story, but I had to start out virtually because of my situation. So I actually lived in Oklahoma and Colorado equally for 8 years. Mm-hmm. So I was literally on a plane every Sunday, back and forth.
I remember you telling me that when we first met back in Texas.
Yeah, so that was my challenge. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do virtual, right? Yeah. Because I already had a virtual business anyways. I was heavy into sales and marketing. Yeah. I had a direct mail magazine. We did postcards and things like that for local mom and pop businesses in Oklahoma. Yeah. So once I started having to travel, because my wife was in Colorado, and I had kids in Oklahoma, so that's why I was going back and forth. Once I had to start doing that, I ended up opening a magazine in Colorado so I can write everything off.
8 years.
So yeah, 8 years I was on a plane every Sunday, coming or going, one or the other place. So
that's a lot of miles, bro.
Yeah, it was crazy. Looking back now, I often wonder like how I even did that. Yeah. But I'm like ADD anyway, so kind of going all the time worked for me. Yeah. It was actually a challenge when I moved to Colorado full time in 2020 because I'm like, I got nothing all the time.
I got nothing to do on Sundays.
Yeah, it was weird. It was really weird because I kind of lived a double life for 8 years, as my wife did as well. So, but yeah, so that's why we started out virtually. Yeah. So I learned that model initially. And yeah, dude, when I started out, it made sense to me when I found wholesaling because I was actively seeking, like, what can I do to leverage my sales and marketing skills into something else? Because I was getting burned out. Yeah. Did the mom and pop business thing for almost 15 years because I sold Yellow Pages for a long time. When that started dying off, I went into my own business, doing basically direct mail magazines. It was kind of the same thing, but for myself. Yeah. And that's why I chose that.
How did that go?
It was really good.
Did you see it get traction quick?
Yeah. Because when I was doing Yellow Pages, I was in the top of the industry. Yeah. There was about 600 reps. I worked for Yellow Book. I was usually in the top 5 every year I was there for 8 years. Yeah. Always number 1 in the Oklahoma City office. Yeah. But then I was like, I saw the writing on the wall. My salary was getting less and less every year, and I was doing the same production. But just it was dying. It's a dying industry. Some of you may not even know what Yellow Pages are. It's a phone book.
I think we're dating ourselves right now, how old we are.
Yeah. So, but it was really good when it was good.
You had to go through this book to find out phone numbers from people.
It was weird. I never understood that. Like, there's ads in this, and then I figured out, people actually sell these ads. Yeah. So yeah, but it was really, really good. But my salary was going down. I'm like, hey, I'm worth more than this. Yeah. So let me do my own thing. So I did. My very first year in business, I did more than my best year in Yellow Pages. Wow. And I was making like $250 a year selling Yellow Pages. Yeah. But
well, you said your first month. I mean, how does that happen? How do you jump into this completely new industry? I mean, you were in one way, shape, or form, you were in sales, right? But it's not real estate sales.
Exactly.
I mean, you still had to go through the process of understanding how to comp, understanding how to market to the specific need, and roll it out. Did you start off virtual wholesaling, or did you start it wholesaling in your backyard?
It's kind of a mix of both. So I was in Oklahoma every other week, right? So I already did direct mail. That's what we did as a company, right? So I jumped into direct mail first. That was my first thing. I did postcards because I already understood that. I already knew how marketing and, ad copy worked and that kind of thing. So we started off doing direct mail. I bought a list, figured out, let's do absentee owner because that's what I saw on YouTube, right? I learned everything on YouTube. So I bought that list. It was like maybe 2,500 to 3,000 names or phone numbers, or names rather, not phone numbers, because, you get a lot more phone numbers out of it. But either way, we direct mailed it. I ended up trying to make it to where, okay, I'm going to make sure that this goes out on a Monday because me and my wife had a trip planned to Vegas. We love going to Vegas. But we ended up getting phone calls on Saturday because the postcards mailed early. Yeah. So I'm like, dang, we're walking down the strip and I'm getting phone calls. And I was kind of nervous. So I'm like, I've never talked to a seller. I've talked to business owners, which is just a different thing, right? But anyways, I took the call. I'm like, hey, can I call you back? Whatever. And I kept getting calls. So I just we got to cut the day short. I spent a few hours in the room that night calling sellers back. And I actually locked 2 up over the phone while we were in Vegas on Sunday.
That's crazy. This 2018?
This was 2018, like late September at this point, mid to late September. And then got back home, was still getting calls. The direct mail was better then, probably.
It's actually coming back, man.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, we'll tap on that in a little bit.
And that's the thing. You gotta shift with what the industry gives you. But but at that time, I ended up locking up I think 8 or 9 contracts, and we actually closed on 7 of them in October. The very first one was a week later. Wow. So I got $5,200 check. I'm like, man, this is awesome, Because my best month in my marketing company was $50,000. Yeah. And I did 72. So I was like, wow, this is what I'm doing.
Right out of the gates.
I'm like,
out of the gates.
This is it.
And so you pulled a list. It was an absentee owner list. Is that what you said? Absentee owner list in that area, and then direct mailed it. I mean, it wasn't even that big of a list. It was 2,500 people.
That's it. 25, 3,000.
3,000 records.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, the power of taking action, it's never... I think it's often overlooked. I mean, one thing I see a lot, especially with students, there's a lot of hesitation into, actually pulling the trigger, right? They want to understand every single aspect of it.
You're never going to be ready enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Entrepreneurship is not one of those things that just cling, and then now you're ready.
Right.
It's not, you don't throw yourself in a microwave, wait for 5 minutes, and then you come out an entrepreneur. You know what I mean?
Learning the business part of it was definitely the harder lesson for me because I already knew sales and marketing, so that was easy for me.
Yeah, but I mean, putting yourself in a space of questions, right? Now it's you're learning through by doing, not just by theory, and then the results come a lot faster. So I mean, that's incredible, man. Kudos. Jumping into again something that's new, and then I mean, you already had some experience with direct mail at that point, right? What you did was pivot. Did you just pivot kind of the strategy?
I completely pivoted, but the cool part was my magazine was more passive at that point because I was burned out on getting new ads. Yeah. And you can't grow that business without selling new customers, right? Yeah. So every time I lost a customer, I just didn't really care as much. Yeah. But I had income coming little by little for 12 months. So yes, it was dying every month a little bit. And I was okay with that because I found this new thing, right? Yeah. So I really went all in, fully day one. And just knew I completely pivoted. I still had my revenue coming in, which was good because I could afford to do the marketing and, afford to live because I had 2 households, 2 everything, right? Right. So, so that worked for me. And then, like I said, the 5th month, we did the 6-figure month and was awesome. But I was trying to figure out how I can scale this because I was literally working probably 18 to 20 hours a day doing everything, right? I was wearing every hat. So I'm like, how can I scale this? And I found someone that I thought could help me do that. And it was just the wrong move. Yeah. So I literally lost.
As in a partner, or did you?
It was just a mentor kind of thing, and I thought they had the systems and processes that I needed and figure out how to hire people and all those things, right? I didn't really know any of that. Because I wasn't necessarily the greatest business owner, even though I had a marketing company.
Yeah, you knew how to make money, not necessarily how to make money. Build the business.
I knew how to sell, and that was really it. But yeah, so I did that whole thing and basically stopped my business in 2019 because the 6-figure month was February. Yeah. And then the rest of the year I didn't really do anything because I was trying to do this other thing because I'm going all in, taking action. You're trying to go with this guy's methods, and it was terrible. It was just a big babysitting job, really, is what it ended up being. So by the end of the year, I'm like, I cut my losses. Let me try to figure out how to build systems and processes, and that's what I did by the end of that year.
Yeah, no, I mean, you bring up a good point, right? There's a lot of I don't know, guru activity out there. There's I don't know. I mean, a good percentage of the people out there are doing, that are talking about, systems and processes and coaching and all that stuff are actually doing the business and they know what's going on. But there's a lot of misinformation too, right? And some people will try one thing once and then, go out there and sell it. And then, I don't know, you start to create this doubt in the space, and there's a stigma to tapping into somebody else's experience.
Yeah.
One of the things that broke that stigma for me was masterminds. I mean, jumping into masterminds and then seeing that other people were, I guess, validating, right? Like from somebody else. Okay, cool. This person is doing well. How did it go here? And then just tapping into that power network. But yeah, a lot of times, I mean, getting bad advice is just as bad as trying to figure everything out ourselves and waiting for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, it was definitely tough.
To click.
It was a hard lesson. I mean, I probably lost 300,000 or 400,000 at least just from that lesson. Which is okay. I wouldn't change that for anything because it made me figure it out.
What's changed since then in terms of you going out there and looking for help? Have you hired anybody else? Have you tapped into different groups?
Yeah. So the difference was, now I was like trying to figure out how to go from wholesaler to actually have a wholesaling business.
Right.
So by the end of 2019, I actually built out a Podio and pretty good processes, made SOPs, all those things, right, by the end of the year. So 2020 year was really like our full year. So I actually hired a couple of people. We ended up doing barely 7 figures that year. But it was big because Corona hit, in 2020 in like March or so, and that benefited us because we were already virtual, so we had to know how that looked.
A lot of businesses,
really
a lot of wholesalers went under.
A lot of them did, yeah.
When that hit.
Like everybody was pulling back on marketing and we don't know what's happening. Like that's when I actually doubled down because I'm like, this is our chance to take market share.
We got this.
And we already know what we're doing virtually. Yeah. So that was a huge pivotal moment in our business. It hurt a lot of businesses across America, but that's when we actually exploded. So
yeah, no, that's incredible. At that point, did you tap into any additional mentorship, any additional or masterminds? Did you have a sense of direction from?
I did a little bit, yeah. So initially, I went to a meetup at the end of 19.
Yeah.
Well, not a meetup, but it was like a convention type of deal. So I kind of bought into their program because I wanted his Podio, the bones of it at least. So that's how I kind of got started. And I can mention who that is if you want. But anyways, but then I ended up joining Investor Lift Cartel Boss with Robert Winsley. And, there's a lot of big players in that. And I learned a lot from those people. Everybody's sharing knowledge, which was big.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sometimes we'll get hit, right? We'll take the wrong advice, I guess, and lose hope.
Yeah,
but there's good stuff out there. Like there's really good stuff out there. You've taken that now. Your model is very interesting. I mean, you made an emphasis. Basically, you've lived virtually for years. The 2 places at once and moving, back and forth every single week for 8 years. I mean, you're pretty comfortable with that space.
Yeah.
But now you're wholesaling, you're buying and holding, and you're flipping in Oklahoma, right? But you still live in Colorado.
Yep.
All right. How are you getting resources for your virtual wholesaling business, boots on the ground type stuff, accountability wise? Like how does that work? What does that look like?
Yeah. So like I said, it was fairly easy for me because I was already kind of living that way.
Yeah.
But we have boots on the ground. We do have 3 acquisition managers, and one of which for 3 years lived in Oklahoma City, so that helped. Okay. One of my dispo managers was in Oklahoma City. Of course, I grew up there, and I know the market. A lot of markets in Oklahoma, not just the city. So I already knew a lot of people and a lot of connections, and I did tap into local meetups there too. Yeah. So I know a ton of investors there too, which is always beneficial. We're all sharing knowledge there too. Kind of like here, more collaboration in Phoenix probably than Oklahoma City, but in a smaller market, it's pretty good there too. You know what I mean? So definitely gained a lot of friends. But yeah, it's really easy there for sure. That's why we kind of went all in on that market where we do a lot of local advertising. I'll buy and hold there because I'm comfortable there. I actually own in 12 different counties there. Oh, wow. Which is kind of crazy because most people will just kind of want it in one spot. Yeah,
you want to have everything. I mean, for the most part, right? Yeah. Like have everything.
But I'm like, I'm 700 miles away anyway, so why does it even matter? So we'll buy anywhere where it's a good deal, you know what I mean? So, I've got like 30-something properties in 12 different counties. So it's kind of crazy, but that's what we do.
Dude, that's huge. Since 2018, I mean, if you take it back a couple of years, leaps and bounds, bro.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I mean,
it's
I
crazy
still
how
feel
fast
like
things
I'm
have moved
behind,
in the
though.
last 5 years.
I know it has gone fast, but then otherwise I'm like, man, I should have like 100 units.
Yeah, but that's your ADD talking.
But, yeah, I know it is, because I'm like, man, I should be moving faster. This is not normal. I should be.
Well, I mean, and I mean that as a joke, right? But I think we all have, to an extent, that overachievement, that sense of overachievement that always kicks in. You know what I mean? And it may not necessarily be ADD. But I mean, it's just this feeling that like, shit, man, I only did 100K, but I should be at 200. Like, bro, like that's somebody else's 2-year salary. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like we're moving fast. We just feel like we need to move faster a lot of times.
Always.
And it creates this almost like this vacuum, right, for performance.
But it keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you have this fire in your belly, and it's like, okay, cool. What other cool shit am I gonna put together today?
That's why in Yellow Pages I'm like, I have to be at the top of the board.
Yeah.
Like nothing else was acceptable.
Yeah.
And not just being up there, but I wanted to be way above everyone else. You know what I mean? So
like
that's
crush
what I
it, not just
for.
perform. Crush it.
I was always at least double or triple the second place person.
Yeah. Wow.
In our office. So, and that's what I wanted.
Well, I mean I
don't want anybody to have any hope.
Yeah.
Of beating, you know what I mean? So
we'll destroy,
I make sure that didn't happen.
Destroy you, your competitiveness, and your hopes.
That's what I wanted, man. So everybody was fighting for number 2.
Bro, we were talking about your name. Your name's Garylan.
Yeah.
In my head, like it sounds like Garylan is like the brother of Thor. He jumps out of places with an axe and kills people and shit like that. It's just like
that's how I feel like when it's
a savage name.
I gotta win.
You carry it well.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
No, that's awesome. What are you doing about finding, for example, boots on the ground type of stuff? And I know, like, Oklahoma's
Oklahoma's easy. Yeah,
it's easy for you.
Yeah.
But if somebody was, tapping into virtual wholesaling, how would you go about researching the area? How would you go about building your network, your boots on the ground type of stuff? How would you go about it?
Yeah. So at first that was difficult to figure that out, but so we do virtual wholesaling nationwide. We're pretty big in Ohio at this point. We've done a lot of deals in Indiana, but we've done them everywhere, from the DMV to Georgia. Never done really West Coast things yet. We've had opportunities, but kind of passed on them. But anyways, so finding boots on the ground, we will do a couple of different strategies. So my dispo manager, I've got 2. They will join like the local Facebook real estate groups, or even just regular like buy, sell, trade groups, So the real estate groups, obviously they're leveraging for buyers, but the buy, sell, trade groups and, the groups that, it's for moms or whatever they might be.
Yeah.
They'll just post in there, like, who wants to make $50 to take a couple pictures?
Yeah.
So they might do that. And they'll usually get several responses, DM me for details or something.
Right.
So they'll get several responses there. But if, sometimes it's a little bitty town, or no one lives nearby there, or there's not a group specifically to that town. It might be 30 or 40 minutes away, but we typically will pay 50 to 150, based on how far they have to go. And sometimes they try to negotiate, like, I'll do it for $100, when we're trying to offer 50. But usually we get someone like that. If not, there's places like wegolook.com. There's a bunch of them, right? But there's also Cafe Notary. Getting notaries are really good because they're already used to going to people's houses to do things. We just don't necessarily need signatures. We just want them to take pictures. So they're the ones that usually try to get more money out of it.
Yeah.
But usually for $150 or less, it's pretty easy.
We've done that too. Like notaries are, you bring up a really good point, right? Like sometimes people don't do the e-sign thing.
Yeah.
They don't do like, okay, cool, I'm gonna send out a notary to you. Send the paperwork over to the notary. It's gonna cost you a bit.
Yeah.
But now you have presence, right? Like in that space.
Yeah, worth it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done that a handful of times too.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's about being resourceful when it comes to that kind of stuff. Now you're managing all this from hundreds of miles away.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So really, I have a COO that really kind of dives in and does the day-to-day. So she does all the hiring and firing and training and just making sure everything is working, right? So we have, obviously the disposition department, the acquisition department, but we do PPC. We're really big on PPC nationwide, but we do focus in Oklahoma City because that's our main market.
Yeah.
So we do radio. We're on 5 radio stations there. We do obviously local SEO for our website there. So we've got a national website and a local to Oklahoma. But yeah, she really manages it. I couldn't do it without her. to be honest, because I end up spending my time traveling or doing content or hanging out with other investors or whatever it might be. So she really runs the day to day. And I hired her about 2 years ago now. She started out as acquisition because I wanted her to learn everything.
Yeah.
But with the goal in mind, like COO, because we worked together for years in the past. So I already knew her work ethic, what she could do, what she brought to the table. So that was just kind of baby steps into learning the whole business.
No, that's awesome. You're almost, I mean, you're taking the satellite, branch type of approach. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. As far as brokerages go, I mean, we do the same type of stuff. I have, for example, I have agents in Yuma, which is, it's still in Arizona, but it's 3 hours away, right?
Yeah,
So similar type of, you have somebody in there, and then, SOPs and protocols and this local presence that matters as well.
Yeah, the whole like office mindset is really not needed. It's beneficial because it's easier to build culture and things like that. So you got to work a little harder. But I think the pros outweigh the cons, because way less overhead and those kind of things, 100%. So.
And I think like there's whenever you have teams that are split like that, right? Like there's ways. My entire team is virtual.
Yep.
Well, I scratch that. I have one. My dispo is he's local. He's here in town. Okay. I mean, he's been with me for a long time, and I mean, he's one of my oldest friends too. So it's like, nice. You know what I mean? Everybody else, even acquisition reps, they're virtual in the Philippines, and they're closing from over there. However, the culture is solid because every day we'll jump on a 15-minute huddle, something simple like that. Yep. We have accountability and KPIs and scorecards and systems and processes and all that stuff in place. Yep. But we don't neglect the human element.
Right.
We're always communicating through Slack. I mean, we have specific channels for certain things. So that level of collaboration is there, right? Even them in the Philippines, like they're like 8 hours away from like the cold calling team, the acquisitions team. Like they're over there, overseas, but doesn't mean that
they're working in the middle of the night.
Yeah, they work in the. They don't see each other. However, they collaborate with each other like through whatever systems and processes we have in place. Then we have an ops meeting where everybody jumps in. I mean, we celebrate. We call out the wins. We hold their people accountable, and it becomes this thing where people perform. They'll go the extra mile just because you're paying attention to that human element.
Yeah, right? Exactly. I think that's what most people honestly. That's where they fail when they start using VAs because they don't train them. Bro, they have experience and I can do this and that, and you just hope you can set it and forget it.
It pisses me off when people start to see somebody else as a laptop, man. They have tenacity. They have especially when they're virtual. They have tenacity. They have skill sets. I mean, a lot of these
highly
people
educated,
are
usually.
highly educated. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Better education than most here in the States. Right. You know what I mean?
And a work ethic.
And a work ethic that that goes along with it. What they don't have a lot of is opportunity. Right? We have opportunity, and that's what we can give them. But yeah, I mean, I like to be. I get surprised all the time by the team. How extra mile the extra mile they go.
And you mentioned huddles. Like Slack changed our life,
bro.
Like I don't know how we ever did it without Slack because that's huge. For everybody to communicate and have the different channels and things like that. We never had that until like maybe a year and a half ago.
Slack is amazing. I mean, I've been using it for years, but they just rolled out a new feature. I mean, it's newish. But you create a channel inside Slack, and Slack, I mean, you can go to slack.com, and then, I mean, basically what it is, it's a messaging platform, right? It's way better than WhatsApp or anything like that, but people can collaborate, share files, record notes, dump everything in there. It's a really good platform where you get to have ownership and kick people out, give people access to certain conversations.
Zap your integrations.
Yeah, exactly. So what you want to do in your business, and this is more of a systems talk, but you don't have a lot of control over open communication channels like, for example, WhatsApp, right? But Slack gives you a more moderation, and you can kind of steer certain conversations to certain buckets and that sort of thing, and still have control over what's going on. So anybody, like, that's the way that we communicate. But they added this one feature where you create a channel in there, and then you click a button. The button says huddle. You click on that thing, and then anybody who's on that channel gets an alert, right? Huddle in progress. So I have an ops channel, and I have the managers. So my lead manager's in there, my acquisitions manager's in there, my dispo manager's in there, a director of ops, and then me, of course, right? So 8:15 in the morning, boom, I'll click that huddle button. Everybody jumps in within 15 seconds. We come in, have a really quick conversation, what's going on, and then everybody jumps off, right?
Yeah, I love that feature too.
Dude, it's I mean,
game
it's
changer.
It is.
You don't have to use Zoom.
No, you don't.
Just
You
huddle.
don't send links. There's no connectivity issues or passwords or shit like that. You just click on that thing, and then everybody jumps in. Have a really quick talk. It's like literally like if you were in the same building and you all like met in the day room for a quick, huddle.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, but if you're not using that kind of stuff, I mean, highly suggest that you do, because it it just creates the connection that people need to have to perform better.
And it helps you when you're virtual build your your whole community. What's the word I'm thinking of? The culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
the what's that word? The culture.
Right. Yeah.
No, but I mean it's I mean, you've been crushing it for the last 5 years. I mean, you have a portfolio over 30 properties.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty impressive for a period of 5 years where you started, you went like a bat out of hell, right?
Yeah.
Out of the gate. It's not all, rainbows and unicorns, right? So you tried to scale in 2019. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
It didn't pan out well.
Yep.
And I mean, you've had some failures. So tell me about like some of that, some of the real and the rawness that goes into building your own business.
Yeah.
And then, of course, before we sign off, I want to close it off with some of the biggest, baddest victories that you've had.
For sure, man. Yeah, man, it's been a struggle for sure, because it isn't always great. A lot of people talk about all the good stuff, but there's probably equally as many bad things as the good, right?
Yeah.
Like 2019 was terrible. I had a 6-figure month, and I'm like, I shut it down because I'm trying to go all in on this new way that this guy was teaching me, and it was terrible. So built it all out, started over basically from scratch, and then even last year, dude, it's like we were trying to do these other marketing channels. We've always done these marketing channels, but we were doing something different, right?
Yeah.
Where it cost way more, right? Like even doing TV, that was terrible for us. I know it works in some markets depending on what you do. But we actually lost money. That's the first marketing channel I've ever lost money on.
Wow.
Spent probably 70 grand and we made 50,
Yeah.
and a lot of hard lessons and difficulties and things like that. It was just, all the small markets where you can't do a lot of deals in those unless you take them all down. Can't take everything down, right? So that was a hard lesson. And hiring, we were terrible at hiring, and we're still not perfect at it, but we're way better now for sure. But last year, I mean, we pretty much gave up on Americans. That's what we ended up doing. We're like, okay, we're definitely going to be virtual in every sense now. Now we only want virtual people from a different country, right? So actually, my number one dispo manager right now, she lives in Mexico, and she's amazing. But we did the whole. We were hiring Egyptians and Filipinos for acquisitions, and that was difficult too. Some of them were decent, but they weren't as good as I wanted them to be, right? Because in my business, you have to get a contract a week in acquisitions just to have your job, right?
Yeah.
But we don't want someone that just does a contract a week.
Yeah.
We want you to do 2 or 3 if you can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were getting the ones that they might do one, maybe next week 0, and then maybe they'll do one again. Like it just wasn't good enough.
Spotty.
So so we lost a lot of money and time and energy just training so many people last year and trying these new marketing channels that just weren't panning out. So we probably spent a good couple of $100,000 during like a 3-month span just trying to figure all those things out. But yeah, finally, like in September of last year, we just cut all those marketing. We're like, okay, let's refocus, because we got to build up, for 2023, right?
Right.
We still had a good year, but we actually were down from the year before, because the year before we were close to 2 million. Now we were like, okay, 1.5, like, it's not good enough. I want to get to $1 million a month. How can I get there? That's hard. Easier said than done for sure. So now we refocused our whole onboarding strategy, our hiring strategy, and now we found some really good people. So now we're back to 3 full-time acquisition managers from the U.S. They're all virtual. They all live all over the place. But we vetted them out better.
Yeah.
We got better at hiring and asking the right questions and training and all those things. We still have the SOPs, but we're still kind of walking them through the SOPs too.
No, so, absolutely. Like that has to happen. I mean, there's stuff that we can mitigate, right? While we onboard and trying to protect the time of the company, per se. So one of the things that we do is actually, right out of the gate. Well, we'll put ads and stuff like that for hiring, right? But the first thing that we start doing is dequalifying.
Right.
Instead of qualifying people, we dequalify. We want to dequalify people through the process. And I mean, if it takes us, I don't know, 100 people to find one, like, you know, it's worth it, because usually the retention tends to be a lot longer. The buy-in tends to be a lot longer. And I'll share my process. I actually taught on it to my students that flew in on Wednesday. Wednesday, we had a really solid workshop here in my office. I had Max Jimenez, he came in, he talked about closings. After that, we did a really solid mindset session. After that, I had Brand Daniels come in and then talk about some of the fundamentals in wholesaling business. And then Mike Cambright was in too. He was talking about masterminds and you know, how that levels you up, and you know, you learn a lot from other people, right, in collaboration. And then Steve Trang came in and he talked about negotiations and transitions at the end of it. But I mean, it's like a packed day full of collaboration, right? At the base of it, like, you still got to have, you know, the mechanics, the nuts and bolts.
Right.
So,
Sure.
but yeah, we'll you know, I don't know, we'll take a few minutes and I'll share that with you if you want.
Sounds good.
So that's incredible, dude. I mean, it's doing something in the space. I mean, it's a very competitive space. I mean, that's a challenge on its own. Yeah. Right. And then being able to do it virtually, I mean, that's challenge times 2.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and back on last year when we had our difficulties, I mean, we literally had months where I was spending $70K and we were making 40. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. Yeah. And then you have those months where the $70K turns into 200. Right. You know, but that's just the way it is. Yeah. Ups and downs, and you got to be able to navigate through those and hold strong and keep at it. Yeah. You know, because I still believe in myself and I believe in what we've got built. Yeah. You just gotta, you know, sometimes you gotta move. Yeah. And take what it gives you. Yeah. Be able, be nimble, right? Yes. And be able to pivot. Mm-hmm. So over the last 5 years, give me your biggest win in the space. Biggest win, man, that's a good question. I think my biggest win overall was I finally got to move to Colorado full time to be with my wife all the time, right? Because really I was waiting in Oklahoma until my kids both were in college. Yeah. So now both of my kids are in college. So I moved there in 2020, September of 2020. So yeah, really it hadn't even been 5 years yet. September will be 5 years for me in this business. But yeah, I think that's my biggest win, because it was difficult always being away from my wife. You know, every other week we sacrificed our marriage for our kids. Really, is what it amounted to, because we didn't want to leave our kids. You know, you know, usually when I've asked that question in the past, like, people will think money, right? Yeah. Biggest win is like, $150,000 on a wholesale assignment, or $200,000, and those happen, you know, all day long, twice on Sunday, for sure. But I like how you went lifestyle with it. Yeah. The biggest win is lifestyle shift. Yeah, because I was actually able to be in one place for once. Yeah. It was an adjustment. Yeah. Because I was so used to going back and forth. But it was the kind of life that you can get to, right? When you put in the work. For sure. And now we can really live life together instead of only every other week. That's beautiful, bro. So, before we sign off, where can somebody get a hold of you? And I have one more question. But if somebody wants to reach out to you, maybe, I don't know, collaborate. Do you JV with people at all? Yeah,
or do you do
all the time.
Stuff? Yeah. Where can somebody find you? Yeah, I mean, I'm everywhere on all social media. We were always posting on YouTube and on TikTok, but now we post everywhere. Yeah. So definitely hit me in the DMs on any of those. It's at Garylan Stewart on anything you search for. Across all social media platforms. So, but we JV all the time. You know, we actually have a whole JV program built out. Nice. Because when you start putting content out, people bring things to you, right, which is awesome, because we want to help. But that's the biggest challenge too. You know, sometimes a deal's not a deal, and we help you navigate through that too. Yeah. So. Awesome. Yep. At Garylan Stewart on all platforms. All of them. Awesome. Yep. We'll make sure to have those on the show notes. And yeah, reach out. I mean, it's again, if you have, you know, anything that's going on in Oklahoma, I mean, why not tap into a powerhouse that's already there, right? Yeah, man. Especially if you're getting started, you need to build that network. I mean, take advantage of it. Sure. With that being said, if you were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old self, what piece of advice would you give that kid?
That's a good question. 17 is my favorite age, by the way.
Yeah. Mine too. That's why I always bring up 17.
Yeah, you're in the
I'm gonna
best
die,
shape.
bro. I'm gonna
like,
die 17 years old.
No, for real. You're in the best shape. You're past puberty, and like life is ahead of you. But yeah,
know it all.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So yeah, if I ran into my 17-year-old self, because I went the traditional route that society told you to do when we were growing up.
Yeah, me too.
At least for me, you got to go to college, get a degree, and all those things, right? You don't really need that. I do believe in college if you're going for a specific reason, like a doctor, attorney, those kind of things. You have to do that, right? But really, for me, it was like I just went to go get a degree because that's what I was told to do. So if I was looking back, I'd be like, well, you don't really need that. You're going to be in real estate. You know what I mean? It's really about if you got the entrepreneur mindset, you definitely don't need that. I was even trying to talk my daughter out of going to college. Yeah. She actually plays college basketball. But, it's just been ingrained in her, too, because even until 4 years ago, that was kind of my mindset still. Yeah. And I don't really necessarily believe that anymore. I'm not devaluing school because education is huge. But I got a full education on YouTube, right? And I teach it on YouTube now, too, because it's important. And I want to give back because that's how I learned. But that's what I would say, just... you don't necessarily need that, but I'm still grateful that I went. And, your path is your path for a reason, so I don't regret that at all. But at the same time, I really thought tumbling, because I was a big tumbler. I was on the USA tumbling team for years. Yeah, wow. I thought that was my future, right? And it wasn't because I broke my ankles. What's another story? When I was 19, and it changed my whole career. Yeah. So I thought that was my whole future, but it wasn't. So... But I'm glad I found real estate. Yeah. I wish I'd have found it sooner. So that's probably what I tell myself, like, find that sooner. Like, real estate is where it's at, and I didn't find it until later in life, But I'm thankful that I did. So God's been good in that way. Yeah,
I mean, it's very true. I think it's very true. I think the path, the traditional path, right? It's not... I don't know, sometimes it doesn't fit well with us. Yeah. And I mean, what's to say that we can't carve our own? So
Right. Yeah. Especially now, they make it so expensive. It's like,
that and information is readily available. So if you're self-driven, if you're motivated, if you have, a slice of creativity within you, I mean, you can come up with a lot of great stuff, right? Sure, and build on that stuff and really tap into different talents. I think we have, even now, we have more opportunity out there than we did even 10 years ago. I mean, shit. I mean, I started wholesaling and doing stuff in 2009. Like, we didn't have RVM stuff. We didn't have mass SMS. We didn't have we had door knocking. Yeah. So a lot of the easiness of systems allows us to do stuff that we normally wouldn't have, or allows us to tap into career choices that we normally wouldn't have done.
Absolutely. Yeah. Information is everywhere. You just got to be willing to consume it and take action on it.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and letting me pick your brain on that. So again, if you're not following him, make sure that you do. Link's gonna be on the bio. It's at the on the show notes. And reach out, right? Like if you're in the market, why not? Again. So once again, man, thank you for being on the show. Appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely.
We got to do this again.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Fam, there you guys have it. Stay focused. You got this.